Welcome to the Geek Homeworld. I am your host, Ed, aka Savage Tech Man. We talk sci-fi, TV, movies, superheroes, and all from a geek perspective. You can find us on Blogger, Google+, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. We're everywhere. Join the Geek Homeworld. Hello everyone, welcome back. It's 2021 and we are talking about the Oscars. And
there will be an Oscars.
There will be an Oscars with a big asterisk next to it. There's so many, this is our first Oscars, our first pandemic Oscars, I guess you would call it. So we're going to go through talking the nominations. We're going to go through the nominations for the major categories here, and we're going to discuss that and a few other things. I want to thank Scott Schreiber. I'm pointing, I guess I point that way. I don't know which way I point. You're there. You're everywhere. Welcome back to the show, to Geek Homeworld.
Thank you, sir. Happy to do it. Happy to do it. Always like talking about the Oscars, no matter how political or annoying it can be.
Right.
It still is the standard for, excellence in film. So, you got to respect most of the nominees at least.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely a different kind of year. This is another different type of Oscars. I watched the BAFTAs. We've seen the SAG Awards, which were weird.
The telecasts have been weird. I mean, the first weirdness was that it was postponed. Basically, we got an extra 2 months of eligibility for film. So instead of the calendar year, you had January and February too to get your films released. They lightened the restrictions on the streaming films because, everything was going to streaming and not to theaters.
Right.
So, there wasn't this theater requirement this year. So we're getting a lot of not lesser films, but independent films, lower budget films. You're not getting your tentpole films, like I'd say maybe Tenet and Mulan are the only two.
Right.
I would call it, or like theater blockbuster movies that are nominated.
Godzilla versus Kong.
Well, maybe next year.
And maybe next year. I mean,
I think it came out a little after that because the deadline was February 28th this time around. So we're going to have a different kind of slate of nominees. We're definitely going to have a different kind of telecast. And that is this coming Sunday.
Right.
April
25th. Yeah. Nobody knows what month or day it is anymore. Right. It's just, it's another day. And this will be the 93rd Oscars telecast, and that reminds me when I'm thinking of 93rd, and this is totally off subject, but we do have a lot of listeners here on the podcast in England, and obviously Prince Philip passed away at 99, 2 months shy of his birthday, and of his 100th birthday. So I know Britain's going through a lot there, so our thoughts and prayers go out to everybody, in the royal family there and such. And I know that has nothing whatsoever to do with film, but we have listeners over there, so we're thinking about you here, the Geek Homeworld, and you can find us on YouTube.
And at least Anthony Hopkins is still kicking, right?
Yes.
And kicking really well. He's still
a well-deserved BAFTA for Best Actor.
Yeah, he won the BAFTA, upset Chadwick Boseman there. So we'll see what happens Oscar night. But this Sunday, the 25th, the telecast is at 8 p.m. on ABC and ABC.com if you cut the cord.
Right.
Which a lot of people have.
So some people have, yeah. Let's talk about the pre-show a little bit. Oscars Into the Spotlight starts at 6:30. I guess that's Eastern time.
Eastern time. Hosted by Ariana DuBois and Lil Rel. Lil Rel getting his little moment there. But the only reason we really bring this up, usually the red carpet's the only thing leading up to the Oscars, which, a lot of people enjoy. But This time there's a pre-show that will give you all the dirt on the nominees. Who's
The
nominated?
dirt on the nominees.
Yeah. At least who it is.
Yeah, previews.
And then
I like that.
also, though, the main thing that's happening on the pre-show that people may be interested in is the performance of all the best song nominees. All 5 are going to be pre-taped, performed in their entirety, just not on the real telecast, on the pre-show. So if you want to see those, which that's actually usually kind of some of my favorite moments on the telecast, are the song performances.
Right.
So if you really want to see that, you need to tune in early at 6:30 and catch that pre-show to be able to see those.
Yeah, and I guess that makes more sense. We were talking about this before we started recording about pre-taping it, because if they zoomed it in, who knows, the internet might, right in the middle of the song and they're doing it live or something, it might, drop out. Because one of the awards, was it where Daniel Kaluuya won an award, and then part of the sound was out for that. Was that the SAG Awards, I think? And
yeah, I think it was the SAG. It was one of those where he was giving this great speech. He evidently had a really funny joke because he laughed really hard at it.
Yeah, that sounds like my jokes. I'm the one that's laughing at it. I'm the one.
So yeah, his entire speech nobody heard. So that's going to be a new thing with this ceremony. Is all the nominees are going to be there in person in the building. They're allowed to bring guests, and the presenters are going to be there in person as well. Mm-hmm. It's just nobody else is allowed in except for that. Nominees, guests, presenters. So they are going to be in person. It's just going to be a smaller group of people, but that'll be great because there's no Zoom speeches. Like another one, another problem. I think it was Gillian Anderson was trying to give her speech for The Crown, and she kept getting cut out. So no Zoom. They're not going to have
well-deserved win, by the way. She did a great job, Gillian Anderson. Let's see. So pre-shows, the post-show is called Oscars After Dark.
After Dark. Yeah, hosted by Coleman Domingo and Andrew Rannells. Coleman Domingo from Fear the Walking Dead. Andrew Rannells was he was on Girls. It was kind of his big break, and I think he was in the Book of Mormon on stage and whatnot. But
okay,
two fun people to watch afterwards and get to recap if you missed anything. So there'll also be a post show.
And something we're mentioning too. Once again, there's no host. And I guess that's like I don't know if that's a politically correct thing to do, or they just can't find somebody, or it saves the payroll. They don't have to pay an exorbitant amount. But I miss the days of Bob Hope, Billy Crystal, Johnny Carson, other people. I'm trying to think of some more contemporary people, but Chris Rock doing the Oscars. I think Whoopi Goldberg did it. There's been so many that I would love to see Dave Chappelle. I would pay a premium amount to watch Dave Chappelle host the Oscars his way.
Yeah, right. It feels weird without it. I think they felt it was a success last year without it. The people that that run the show, so they were just like, oh, let's just do it again. And it did kind of move things along faster, I guess, to not have a host. But yeah, tradition calls for one, but this is a non-traditional year, obviously. So.
Yeah, again. Yeah. But hopefully we'll things will get back to more of a normal after for the next Oscars that we have at the regular time that we should have it covering the calendar year as it ought to. I think personally that 2020 they should have had the Oscars just like normal.
Yeah.
And if Bad Boys for Life won Best Picture,
then so be it.
Then so be it. Just put in the asterisk, and since that was the top film.
Yeah, I'm curious to see where this shift in schedule ends. Is the 2021 slate of films, or is it just going to be from March 1st to December 31st? Or are they going to extend 2 more months again? Like, they could correct it back and just be like, all right, we've got 10 months.
I would correct it back. I would have never deviated.
I mean, it just feels weird. I like the calendar year. It's always been a set thing.
Right.
You have your Oscar season in November and December, So it's just I'm a traditionalist again. So yeah, I agree. I think we need to go back, fix the schedule back. But
Yeah, yeah.
Again, unprecedented times.
Yep. And you got to do what you got to do. Let's talk about most nominations this. Oh no, I'm sorry. All nominees and their guests and presenters will be there in person. So you said no Zoom speeches, which I think is a good thing.
Yeah. At least you'll still have that normalcy of it, where the actual winners will still come up on stage,
right?
And still get played off. I'm sure I'm sure they'll still run along with their political speeches, and they'll get played off. So, it'll be like good old times.
Yeah, good old times. And most nominations this year. Let's you want to go through? Let's go through that list.
Yeah, the big nominee this year is Mank with 10,
which seems like a Hollywood made for Hollywood film.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's basically about how the script for Citizen Kane came to be.
Right.
So yeah, you knew Hollywood was going to eat it up. Shot in black and white. So David Fincher's at the helm. Gary Oldman doing his thing. So yeah,
he's phenomenal.
Made for Hollywood right there. So it's no surprise that it leads the way with 10. And then, it gets kind of spread around. There's a big group here with 6 nominations. You got The Father, Judas and the Black Messiah, Minari, Nomadland, and Sound of Metal, and Trial of the Chicago 7. All have 6. And then there's a couple with 5. You got Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, Promising Young Woman, both have 5. And what else rounds it out there?
News of the World has 4, a Tom Hanks film. Yeah. One Night in Miami with 3, Soul with 3, and then it looks like Borat 2, Emma, Hillbilly Elegy, Mulan, Pinocchio, and Tenet all have 2.
And another round. Yeah,
and another round. Excuse me.
Film. So yeah, all those have 2, and then there's a bunch with 1, but. And we'll get into those as we go through the nominees. But yeah, so they kind of spread it out there after Mank. There's a lot of films with a nice chunk of nominations there, 5 or 6, and getting some love there. So.
And next, we're going to talk about the nominees, our thoughts, predictions, snubs, and who we want to win. Like who we think's going to win, who we want to win personally. And we'll probably have to come back together on an episode afterwards and recap and see how we did. Sure. So I guess we just should. You ready to head into the categories?
Yeah, let's hop into the nominees. We're going to start with all the acting.
Okay, I'll read the thing, and then you'll do the names. How about that?
I'll do the names. See, that usually works.
I'll use an Oscar voice. Let's see. The Academy Award, actor in a leading role, and the nominees are. So lead actor here we've got Riz Ahmed for Sound of Metal, Chadwick Boseman for Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, Anthony Hopkins for The Father, Gary Oldman for Mank, and Steven Yeun making history for Minari. Yeah, so very strong category.
Huh?
Very strong competitive category.
Oh, yeah. These are great. There were a few others that we probably could have named here, but this is a pretty solid list. I have Hopkins, Boseman, Ahmed as my top 3 of the year, so to see them all there is great. Gary Oldman and Mank is fantastic. And when I say Steven Yeun making history, he's the first Asian actor, I believe, to be up for lead performance. I believe. I can't remember what his name was, but in the Killing Fields.
Oh gosh, it's like 88. Was that? No.
Yeah, so I think around mid 80s or so. That gentleman won supporting actor, but this is the first lead actor nomination.
And if you don't know who he is, Steven Yeun, he was on The Walking Dead. I forgot his name.
Oh no!
He died violently.
He was Glenn. He was the best character.
I know that. I was just saying that the other day to somebody. I'm like, I forgot his name.
No, he was. He was always my favorite character on The Walking Dead.
He's definitely one of my top 3 favorites, and it would be not. I mean, I don't know if we're speculating now, but I feel like Chadwick Boseman has the the fortunate, however you want to look at it, it's unfortunate that he passed, but he has the Heath Ledger-ness about him. Both great performances, but he feels like the leading man going into this. The crowd favorite, but someone like Riz Ahmed or Stephen Young winning would be refreshing in a way to me to see them winning, because those were both really good films. And Anthony Hopkins, we talked about, he won in basically this category in the BAFTAs. Yeah. And it wasn't just like giving him an award because he's got such an acclaimed career. It's because of an actually great performance.
It is a great performance. I agree that I believe Chadwick Boseman is the front runner here.
Right.
He's won the majority of the precursor awards.
Right.
He won, let's see what he won. He won the Golden Globe, Critics' Choice, the SAG Award. The only award he didn't win was the BAFTA, the British Academy Award, which Hopkins took home.
Right.
And I personally would vote for Hopkins. He plays basically a person going through the early stages of dementia.
Right.
And so he plays all these different emotions, every single human emotion you can think of, and he turns on a dime, and it's a master class in acting, and it's hard to put anything above it. And I get the support behind Boseman. He does give a powerful performance.
He does.
It's like him and Ahmed are a toss-up for my number 2 and 3. Ahmed for Sound of Metal, where he plays a guy losing his hearing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so
a drummer.
Boseman,
that's it's just unfathomable in that industry. It's like being a sound mixer and you can't hear. You're losing your hearing, which happens. And
and he definitely plays that really well. That sense of bewilderment and anger that this is happening to him. I mean, he's a musician. He needs it, but it's a beautiful film.
We'll talk more about that in like the sound portion of it later on.
We probably do need to not take this much time on it.
Right. Sorry.
It's kind of hard to, but yeah.
It's hard not to really dive into these, nominees because they're all such great performances.
Yeah, so I think we're looking at a Boseman win here.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
I would want Hopkins to win, but I wouldn't be upset with any of these winning. They're great. They're all great performances. I hate to be like, let's say that generality. They're all great.
Yeah. It's just an honor being nominated. But, okay, the next category is actor in a supporting role. And the nominees are
Sacha Baron Cohen, Trial of the Chicago 7, Daniel Kaluuya, Judas and the Black Messiah, Leslie Odom Jr., One Night in Miami, Paul Raci, Sound of Metal, and Lakeith Stanfield, Judas and the Black Messiah. What are your thoughts?
Shoe-in is Daniel Kaluuya. Yeah, he's been blazing the trail. He'll probably win. This leads to a little bit of Oscar history. I think actor and a leading role and supporting role.
Right. If Boseman and Kaluuya both win, it may be the first time that two black actors have won on the same night. Right. I don't know if they've ever won on the same night. I know that like Denzel and Halle Berry won on the same night. And there's probably a couple others where it happened like where two actors, but we could end up having 3 or 4 people of color winning for acting this year. So but it looks like Kaluuya is your shoe-in. He's won everything. The only person that has a chance to upset him is Sacha Baron Cohen,
which for me, I think that would be a major upset, if he was able to pull that off. But I don't know. One Night in Miami, I think of that. Leslie Odom Jr. That was a great film. And now
I'm glad that he's representing it too, because like we've talked about it before.
And what character did he play for those who may not know?
Sam Cooke.
Yes.
So so we both talked about that. Like we both love Sam Cooke and his music and how much he means to us and like in that regard. And so to see Leslie Odom get that, be the representative. He's the only actor.
He would be, for his performance, he would be the one that I would like to see win. It's kind of like the whole crowd is going with Daniel Kaluuya, which he was fantastic in Judas and the Black Messiah. But I kind of feel like that's where the mainstream is going. That's where everybody's going. But I like looking for those kind of diamonds in the rough. Those performances that aren't always, with the flow. And Leslie Odom, I feel like
Well, talk about under the radar. Look no further than Paul Raci, Sound of Metal. Like, he was phenomenal, and he had, he is a part of the deaf community, and he gives this wonderful performance. He is the heart of that film, the conscious, at least. Like, he's certainly the conscious.
And if you read, I don't mean to cut you off there, but if you read the story of his acting history, it's pretty amazing. It's like every failed attempt after a failed attempt, he could never get cast. And, he did little roles here and there. And for this to come this late in his life was really incredible. I read a very inspiring article about him. And so for him to get it would be probably the biggest shock in this category, or maybe the entire Oscars. But it would be, he had a very important role in that film, Sound of Metal. And
he's pivotal to that movie. Yeah. It would be really cool, but I do think it's Kaluuya's here. Right. Lakeith Stanfield's also nominated for Judas and the Black Messiah, which I thought was a little strange that he got put in supporting actor. He's the lead character in that film. And then Kaluuya's Fred Hampton is the supporting character, right? In my opinion. So Stanfield being in supporting here is strange. It kind of stole a spot from maybe some other deserving people, but right. In my opinion, like, you put Stanfield in lead, and again, it's hard. And that's probably what's their strategy there. It's like, ooh, lead's kind of loaded up there. Let's put him in supporting and see if he gets it. And he did. And he does give a powerful performance, a great performance.
And he could totally win it. He could totally win it.
No, he couldn't.
No, he couldn't.
Sorry.
I meant Kaluuya. I'm sorry.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the list and I'm going through it in my mind.
Kaluuya is not losing.
Yeah, but Lakeith, he's not going to get it, but it will be Kaluuya. Let's see. Next one up is actress in a leading role, and the nominees are.
All right, so this is kind of wide open here. Like, this is the one acting category where I think we have 4 people that could win, which is crazy. You usually know who's going to win going into it, or at least have it narrowed down to 2. But we have 4 contenders here. Sorry, Vanessa Kirby, for Pieces of a Woman. You're number 5 here. You probably don't have a shot at winning, but it was a masterful performance from Vanessa Kirby in that. She plays a woman who has a miscarriage, and then the aftermath of that. It's pretty heavy stuff. Yeah. But your other 4 nominees that are pretty much in the running here are Viola Davis, Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, Andrew Day, The United States versus Billie Holiday, Frances McDormand in Nomadland, and my pick. I want to emphasize this because this was my favorite.
I've heard this all year. So.
I know. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
But my pick for best film, best everything, but definitely for best actress, Carey Mulligan, Promising Young Woman, is the other nominee there. So I think Carey Mulligan's is the best performer. It gives the best performance here. She's hands down my vote. I do think that Viola Davis, Andrew Day are both on her, both heavy contenders there with her, and even Frances McDormand. McDormand coming off a win at the BAFTAs. She won the BAFTA. Carey Mulligan won the Critics' Choice. Andrew Day won the Golden Globe. Viola Davis won the SAG. So that's why I say this is wide open. All 4 ladies won one of the major awards. So, I don't quite know who's going to get it. They could go a little political and try to give Viola Davis her third Oscar, which I believe would be the first Black actor or actress to win 3. Right. I believe Denzel and Morgan Freeman have 2, maybe a couple others. But
Hallie's only got 1.
So they could kind of go that route and be like, ooh, we want to give her it. Because I honestly don't put her performance up here in the class of Carey Mulligan or Andrew Day.
Well, you had an interesting comparison between Viola Davis and Ma Rainey's Black Bottom and Andrew Day's performance in the United States versus Billie Holiday that we talked about. Can you expand on that? Because I think this is a very, very important one.
Right, and I think it depends on how you look at performances here. So I see this, if it ends up being between Viola Davis and Andrew Day, and it's not, Carey Mulligan's not in the picture, which I think she should be. Obviously, I've said that again.
Right.
But if it comes down to Andrew Day and Viola Davis, now you have this, you've got these musical performances, and it reminds me of I think it was maybe 2 years ago, 3 years ago. I can't remember how long ago, but it was very not long ago. Rami Malek for Bohemian Rhapsody.
Right.
Bradley Cooper for A Star Is Born. It reminds me of this situation where you've got one actor who is lip syncing the entire time versus the actor who's doing all their singing. Now, it depends on how you view performances. Like for me, a better performance for me is somebody actually doing the singing. And Andrew Day as Billie Holiday in The United States vs. Billie Holiday is phenomenal. She does all the singing. She sounds just like Billie Holiday. This is actually her acting debut. She'd never acted before. So it's pretty astonishing performance. So if it comes down to Viola or Andrew, I'm Andrew Day all the way. Give it to her. That is, if for some reason you're not voting for Carey Mulligan.
Right. Well, you mentioned the comparison because we had this. I guess was that last year. I don't even remember, or the last Oscars, or was that Oscars?
I feel like it was.
I don't even remember time anymore. Before
yeah, right.
the pandemic, I really don't. But I was all super excited, and still to this day am about Rami Malek winning for his portrayal of Freddie Mercury and Bohemian Rhapsody. And so I'm on. I get what you're saying on that.
And I was always the wet blanket. Yep.
You were the wet blanket on that year for me, and you will always be for that. But the thing about it is, he encapsulated what it was to be the spirit of Freddie Mercury, and Viola, the character she's playing, maybe she does. I mean, I thought it was a good performance. I personally think that Ma Rainey's Black Bottom's a little bit overrated.
Me too. Me too. I would have liked to have seen a lot of their nominations shift over to One Night in Miami. I really love that film.
Yes, because I felt that was much more deserving of awards than it's been. The attention that it didn't get the attention it should have.
No, and I think only three nominations for it is kind of a travesty, and we'll get into some of the snubs on that in a little bit. But
I feel like in this category for actress in a leading role, Frances McDormand, I kind of feel like been there, done that.
Sure.
And I feel like let's give someone else a chance, and if Carey wins it,
that
would be interesting.
Just this story about, it's essentially a rape revenge story, like something terrible happened to her friend, and she feels, somewhat responsible in a way, not necessarily responsible, but she feels like the wrongs needed to be right. And so she's kind of going on this revenge tour, and like the balance is so great and the direction is so great. It's a phenomenal film if you haven't seen it.
And she's gotten some blowback in the press over the year that, or during time since it's come out, about how her portrayal was a little, quote unquote, like crazy. I mean, I don't know exactly the words, but that's kind of the words that were thrown around. And Carey brilliantly says, she's seen men in the same type of situation, generally speaking, that didn't do the things that her character did. They did much worse things, yet it was never called into question their motives or whatever, the character's motives. And
there's
she makes an
a little bit of
point.
A double standard there.
It is, yeah. The next category is actress in a supporting role, and the nominees are...
All right, so this is a two-way race, but I'll go ahead and say all of them.
Okay.
The first one is Maria Bakalova for Borat's subsequent movie film. Love this nomination. They do not nominate comedies enough, or comedic performances enough. Then you've got Glenn Close, Hillbilly Elegy, Olivia Colman for The Father, Amanda Seyfried for Mank, getting her first Oscar nomination, and Yoo Jun-yoon for Minari. So it's a two-way race in my opinion. Who's looking like the front runner now is Yoo Jun-yoon for Minari, because she's won the BAFTA and the SAG, the last two awards. Before that, every award was going to Maria Bakalova for Borat, which I was fully behind. I love her performance in this. She has to match wits with possibly the greatest, like, improviser ever in Sacha Baron Cohen, at least in those settings, you know what I mean? Not necessarily on stage or whatever, but in real life setting improviser and dealing in that regard, he's up there. And for her to be able to kind of steal his thunder in a way. This is a Borat film, but she's what you remember from it. And she's phenomenal in this. And again, like I love these comedic performances getting recognized. Like, how many times can you think of a comedic performance getting an Academy Award nomination?
I was going to say, if nothing says 2020 in film in the Oscars as Borat, when in the world would you ever put anything that says Borat, in the same consideration with,
here's the misconception about Borat, though, and I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
But it's not as lowbrow as
the first one.
Most people.
As the first one.
Well, even the first one. Even the first one isn't as lowbrow as you will think it is.
Yeah.
It's actually,
I wasn't terribly impressed with it. Yeah, but
it's a brilliant satire, both of them. The first one is about anti-Semitism. It's about how third world countries treat their, Jewish people, and that's the whole point of the film, actually. And it gets lost with the, the grotesque stuff he does, and the juvenile humor. But really, that's what the heart of the first one is. And the heart of this one, it deals with the oppression of women, and it also deals with Trump's America. So that's why it's getting all the recognition this year. It got a screenplay nomination. Because it deals with what we're going through right now, the pandemic and the Trump administration. And then it also has this
and now the after effects of it.
Well,
Yeah, but
we'll probably
when
get
it was
another, another Borat, with the aftermath. But Maria Bakalova's character deals with, it's about the oppression of women, and she's just like, there's one scene where she's in the car with the woman, and she's like, "You're a woman. Why? You can't drive." There's loads of little jokes like that where it's just like, it really is about, the oppression of women, and she gives a great performance. But I think the winner here, it's starting to look like it's Yoo Jun-yoon for Minari. And at first, I was not for this. I was really on the Borat train for Maria Bakalova.
Right.
But I've really done some thinking over the past couple of weeks, and like, man, she deserves to win this. Yoo Jun-yoon for Minari.
That would be wonderful if she did.
This movie is really heavy. It's kind of like the story of Job in a way, where all these bad things just keep happening. But when she comes into the film, it brings some levity and it brings some humor, and so it just kind of gives life to this film that's kind of hard to watch in parts because it's just so. These people are getting beat down, but she brings that humor to it and is the light. So
it's hard not to think of this film and not think of Parasite for me. I know they're different films. I know they're different cultures. But they're dealing a little bit.
Well, they're both Korean. They're both Korean.
Well, in the sense that, I guess it's still the same. I was going to say class warfare, but it's not so much that.
No. This is about Minari is about the American dream, and it's about not letting the important things go to the wayside because of your American dream either. So, like family. So, and it's, it really is what this film's about. It's a little different, but I get the parallel with it because, we're getting great Asian cinema, and this is an offshoot of that. So, I absolutely see what you're saying there.
Yeah, and I would not be against Minari winning as much as it could. I think it's probably one of the best films. Definitely, well, it's been nominated, so it definitely is.
Yeah. 6 nominations.
Just a quick note: an actress in a supporting role. You have Glenn Close, who does a very good transformative performance in Hillbilly
She
Elegy.
definitely disappeared into, what was it, Mama Jean or whatever it was.
And Olivia Colman, which I love. I just love. I love her spirit. I've said this like a million times, but I would love to have her as like my agent or my biggest cheerleader. I mean, even she seems like she could brighten up your day and make you feel bad about losing or even winning.
And she's great in this too. She plays essentially the daughter of the dementia patient that, and she gets to explore that side of it too. It doesn't just affect the person; it affects the people around.
The caregivers. It definitely is. But it's interesting to see those caliber of actresses, and then you've got these other people thrown in that could totally overshadow them with their great performances.
Yeah.
And let's see, animated feature film. The nominees are
Onward, Over the Moon, Shaun the Sheep movie, Farmageddon, Soul, and Wolfwalkers.
This is like Shaun of the Dead.
Yeah, right.
I thought about that when I saw that.
No, this is not Shaun of the Dead, the animated feature. No, I would watch that.
I would definitely watch that. Shoe in for Soul.
There's no stopping Soul on this one. Onward was decent.
I thought it was pretty good. It was one of my films that I really enjoyed. I'm sorry to see that. And you think I'm a little crazy, but The Croods 2 was really good during the pandemic. It was one of the funnest like family animated films that I saw. That I really enjoyed it. It was so much better than I thought it would be, and I just felt great coming out of that film after seeing it. Anyway, so
I agree. It was good. I mean, it's tough though. I mean,
but Soul,
when you look at these nominees, they're definitely trying to go for some diversity here too. Over the Moon, I believe, is a Chinese. I want to say Chinese tale. It's on Netflix.
Right.
Wolfwalkers is an Irish tale. It's really good. It's if the few people that have Apple Plus can watch it.
Yeah, it's like the Tom Hanks film I didn't get to see this year because I didn't have.
I enjoyed it. It has Greyhound. It's nominated for one thing here. We'll see later.
Yeah.
But Wolfwalkers is cool. It kind of reminded me a little bit. Kind of gave me this Game of Thrones kind of feeling, even though it's a kids movie and not violent. But it had Ned Stark as one of the voices.
A kid's Game of Thrones, which is very interesting.
No, it only reminded me of that because Sean Bean, who played Ned Stark, is the voice of the father. And then there's this little girl that she's kind of like Arya. So anyway.
Yeah, we're 10 years from the anniversary this very week of when Game of Thrones debuted on HBO.
Yeah, good.
It's incredible. So long ago.
I know, right? Yeah. But yeah, Soul's the shoe in here.
Yeah,
that was a great film. Great score.
It really was. And John Baptiste, he is winning like the soundtrack, the music of it keeps winning awards.
John Baptiste.
Yeah. So, I mean, awesome. Next category is hopefully they'll present this on screen. Remember the years ago when it didn't get on screen, but cinematography. The nominees are
Judas and the Black Messiah, Mank, News of the World, Nomadland, and Trial of the Chicago 7.
Why do I think Mank is the leader in this one?
Because people love black and white. Like when you see a black and white film now, people eat it up. As far as voting for like cinematography, I would think it's the front runner. I mean, it's either that or Nomadland, because Nomadland it's the right word. It has all these pastoral images. Is that right? Is that a right way to use it? It has all these landscapes.
I'll accept that as an answer.
Yeah, right. No, like the scenery is gorgeous. Like it basically, like it really captures the American Southwest and the landscape and the beauty of it. And I saw it in IMAX. They actually put it in the IMAX theater, which tells me they probably shot with IMAX cameras,
Wow.
or at least had put it on in that ratio at least. So that, and Nomadland did win cinematography at the British at the BAFTAs and the Critics' Choice. So Nomadland could be the front runner, but I think Mank is a sneaky one too because of the black and white cinematography.
Right.
I love that we see News of the World here.
Yeah, that was a good film.
That's in my top 5, man. At the very least, top 10. I haven't really put it concrete yet, but it's definitely top 10. Could be top 5. I thought News of the World should have been up for Best Picture. So that's one of my snubs when we get there. But to see it get 4 nominations is nice, though. So
yeah,
this is the first one.
It wasn't my favorite Tom Hanks film, but it was just nice in this year to have a film by Tom Hanks that I could actually see. And I thought it was good. I enjoyed watching it. Of course, we saw it at a drive-in, so it was a little bit different experience. But at the time, that was the safest way, we deemed necessary to see it. But I really wanted to see it, and I did enjoy the film.
Well, and that actually reminds me of one of my snubs for supporting actress too. Was that little girl in News of the World?
You read my mind. Yeah.
She was amazing. Like, I would definitely take, no offense to old Amanda Seyfried and supporting actress, but I'd take her out there and throw little girl from News of the World in there.
I agree. But
yeah, cinematography between Nomadland and Mank, probably Nomadland, but
And working in the industry, I know that costume design, our next category, is extremely important. And so the nominees for that are
Emma, Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, Mank, Mulan, and Pinocchio. So
Pinocchio seems like the odd one out here, but I don't know.
It was an interesting, that I actually did get to see that one in the theater a couple months ago. It's an Italian film, and the costume and makeup is pretty impeccable. Like, I could see it winning makeup, but we'll get there.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it deserves that nomination. This is the first time we see Mulan here, and when I watched Mulan, that was the one thing I came out of it like, oh, okay, that's up for costume. Like, the costumes on that were pretty amazing. Emma, that period piece. There's always a period.
There's always a period piece that is always got the possibility of winning, but I almost feel like this is another category for Mank. I mean, that's my thoughts, but like, there's strong cases for the other ones too.
I think that this one is Ma Rainey's for the taking.
Really?
I think that, I feel like
it is a period piece too. Yeah.
Yeah, and I just feel like just for Viola Davis's wardrobe alone and giving her that look, like, I think is what gives Ma Rainey's Black Bottom costume design. My gut's telling me that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then we go to what is next? Documentary feature.
Yeah, documentary feature. Will blow by this one real quick because neither one of us have seen any of these.
So they're all winners. Everyone gets an award. Everyone gets an Oscar.
But we'll go through them because they are important. Like, I love a good documentary, and they're all available on streaming sites right now, depending on what you pay for.
Right.
But the nominees are Collective. It's available on Hulu. Crip Camp, available on Netflix. The Mole Agent, available on Hulu. My Octopus Teacher on Netflix, and Time on Amazon Prime. The only precursor we really have for this is the BAFTA. The BAFTA, My Octopus Teacher won for that one. So, who knows? I don't know. My gut would tell me. I have no comment. Camp. Yeah, my gut would tell me Crip Camp because of the subject matter, but I don't know. That's one you kind of, you're in an Oscar pool, you just kind of close your eyes and point at one. So.
Okay, the next category is film editing, and this is going to be an interesting one. The nominees are
The Father, Nomadland, Promising Young Woman, Sound of Metal, and Trial of Chicago 7. Dead silence. You got any thoughts there?
I I feel like, and I'm looking at them, I feel like, well, if I had a choice, it'd be Sound of Metal,
Yeah.
because that was a fantastic film. I feel like Nomad Land's kind of the editing in it. I feel like that, yes, that would be a top contender.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't
I
know.
hear you. I
It's kind of hard.
I think it's Sound of Metal's to win, because what you come away from that film is the way that film is put together, especially the sound editing.
Yeah.
But the film editing,
definitely will get the sound.
goes hand in hand with that too. So I think that's where you'll see Sound of Metal probably take home both of those. It's probably your front runner. I think the other contender is The Father. The way that is put together is really interesting because they really do a good job about, and I'll talk more about it with production design. But they really do a good job of making you feel as disoriented as the Hopkins character going through.
Which is important. That's true. That's very true.
Absolutely.
So you're on the journey with them.
Yeah. So the editing of that film is key, much more so than I would say to Nomad Land or Trial of Chicago 7. When you're putting together an Aaron Sorkin film, and the way that dialogue comes across, boom, 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 like the editing is pretty important there too. So I could almost see Trial of Chicago 7 too being in the picture there, but probably Sound of Metal, maybe The Father cutting in there. I'd vote for Promising Young Woman because it's nominated, and I'd vote for it for everything. But
there you go.
But anyway, I digress. We'll really talk about that a little bit later.
And the next category is International Feature Film. And the nominees are
Another Round, Better Days, Collective, The Man Who Sold His Skin, and Quo Vadis Aida. So I've only seen one of these, and I wanted to see it because the director is nominated for Best Director as well. So that would tell me that Another Round is the front runner here, just because it's up for Best Director.
Right.
You would think it would be the
and
front
not everybody
runner, right?
gets Best Director. That's an important award.
So and I watched it this morning. It's actually an interesting. It's kind of this study on the effects of alcohol on like trying to find the right balance of drinking alcohol. So it's like these 4 teachers kind of come together and they come up with this experiment where, like, there was a psychologist or somebody that said that the human body is 0.05% below the blood alcohol content level we're supposed to be at. So that if we get it up to 0.05, we're operating on a more functional level. So it's this whole idea of getting your blood alcohol up so you're more socially, what's the right way to say this? You're.
I'm just thinking about working. I don't know. You can't really get your blood alcohol for work, but
the film doesn't shy away from that either. There is that balance. It doesn't glorify drinking, but maybe there are a couple of scenes that do. But it definitely shows the detriment of it too. So it's a pretty interesting film.
Well, not to belittle at all social anxiety. That's a real thing, and that's a thing that people struggle with. And some people use the crutch of alcohol to, make them a little bit more lively, more talkative, and more social. So there's like in everything in life, there's a balance, because it can certainly easily go the other way, in a bad way.
That's the point that the film makes. It's like, everything is good in moderation. That old saying. So,
right.
So it definitely shows the negative effects of alcohol and alcoholism.
Right.
But it also gives you kind of this interesting idea that, if you have 1 or 2 drinks, you are kind of more relaxed and more at ease and more socially, involved. And so it just kind of does get you thinking. So it was an interesting
Don't drink
film.
and drive. Don't.
So I think that's your front runner for international film. Having not seen the other 4, I can't really comment, but just the fact that it's up for Best Director.
Obviously, my next favorite category makeup and hairstyling, because I'm always doing this. I got to get a haircut. The nominees for hair and makeup, makeup and hairstyling
are Emma, Hillbilly Elegy, Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, Mank, and Pinocchio. So here, I get Emma and Mank are kind of boring choices here for me. They're just they're, the makeup in black and white is kind of hard. So I get that. It's definitely it's a different technique when you're shooting black and white. I hadn't thought of that. So yeah. So that, I still feel like it's underwhelming nominee here. Hillbilly Elegy, they did do a great job making Glenn Close and Amy Adams look like their real life counterparts. It's when you look at the pictures yes. in the credits, it's pretty crazy.
This is almost akin to our Rami Malek versus Christian Bale, how Christian Bale transformed through makeup and his acting. Just the makeup portion of that. I think of that. I don't know.
Sure. And my vote would be for Pinocchio. I touched on it just a minute ago, but the prosthetic makeup in this film is pretty incredible. Because it's true to the story where he goes and he confronts, I don't know if confronts is the right word, but he meets all these different animals. So he comes across all these different animals and they're actors with prosthetics to make them look like the animals. So it's pretty well done, pretty seamless. Plus they make the prosthetics, they make him look like a wooden boy. So the prosthetic makeup and the way that looks pretty cool. I really like that it's nominated here. But again, my gut, just like in costume, my gut tells me Ma Rainey's Black Bottom is going to win here. I think just the way that they make Viola Davis look.
She did. I know this sounds, I don't know how to say this without it sounding strange, but the thing about the makeup on her was the fact that she was sweating the whole time, and I don't know how to say that and it not sound strange, but I don't know if that's necessarily hair or makeup. I guess it would fall under makeup or lack of, or I don't know how to describe it. I know it's,
it's
hair and makeup isn't just hair and makeup. It encompasses more. She's
not sweating on accident.
Right. And I feel like that gives a more legitimacy to her role. I think that props her role up even more for me.
I think that's why people think her performance is better than it actually is.
Because it looks like she's sweating it out for this performance.
But,
I don't know. If we were old Hollywood or we were a couple of years ago, I would easily say Emma would be a lock for that. Right. Or even still, I'm kind of leaning towards Mank.
Okay.
I don't know. I feel like, Hollywood is going to give the woke awards, their version of some of the categories, and some of them they're going to kind of keep close to the chest. I hate to say it that way. I don't mean to make that sound how it sounds, but I feel like, Mank, I still think is going to pick up some awards because I feel it honors old Hollywood and, I don't know. We had a year almost without Hollywood, and so this is a way to kind of celebrate Hollywood in a way, I don't know. But it could be Ma Rainey. I mean, I don't know. Moving right along, the next category is original score, and the nominees are
The Five Bloods, Mank, Minari, News of the World, and Soul.
The lock here is on Soul.
Yep.
I think.
Yep, agreed. John Baptiste and Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross. So don't forget about old Nine Inch Nails.
Yeah, I know. I loved it. Was it the SAG Awards? I can't remember where he won, or maybe it wasn't BAFTA.
SAG, because that's all acting.
Oh, they changed it. Oh.
So it would have been maybe the Golden Globes.
Golden Globes. That's it. That's Golden Globes, and he's like. Yeah, in the reports, this was in case you forget, he was the lead singer of Nine Inch Nails, and I think he says, something. He said to be involved with something that my kids can
Yeah, he's
enjoy.
finally involved with something that his kids could watch.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, it's, obviously John Baptiste is out front taking all the awards,
Yeah.
but, and rightfully so. I'm not saying
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
because hell, Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross have done this before. They won an Oscar, maybe two by now, both for Fincher's work. They are now David Fincher's guys. When he does like all their scores, David Fincher's scores are done by Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross now. So, but yeah, I would say that's the front runner. I love the score in News of the World and Minari. God, the score in Minari is great. It's got that.
I was gonna say it probably feels like definitely part of the movie. It's.
Oh yeah, it has like that. It's kind of has the Far East feel, but yet they're in Arkansas, so it also kind of blends that kind of. I don't know necessarily.
I don't want to say twang, but I don't know.
Yeah. But so I really like that score, but yeah, Soul's the lock here. There's a few locks on the night, and that's one of them.
And original song is our next category, and the nominees are.
Yeah, and again, you're gonna see, if you want to see these performed, you need to tune in early to the pre-show. The nominees are "Fight for You," Judas and the Black Messiah. I believe that's being performed by her, who she just won a grant, coming off a Grammy win, so she could be getting that. She could be getting closer to that EGOT here. And then you got "Hear My Voice," Trial of the Chicago 7, Ciucevich, Hometown for Eurovision Song Contest, which if y'all aren't familiar with that film, it's Will Ferrell and Rachel McAdams.
Oh, okay.
And it's actually one of my favorite comedies of the year. It's really surprised me. A lot of great original music in that, and I love seeing that it got nominated here for an Oscar for Best Song, because the songs in that are pretty great. Then we got EOC, or Scene, for The Life Ahead. I believe that's another Italian film starring the great Sophia Loren.
Okay.
And then Speak Now for One Night in Miami, performed by Leslie Odom Jr. And I believe the scene for Life Ahead is Diane Warren, written by Diane Warren. So another nomination for Diane Warren.
She won for that, and Golden Globe. It was Golden Globe. It wasn't.
I think it was.
It probably was Golden Globes.
What was? Yes. In my notes it says Golden Globe win.
Then that's what it was. And Diane Warren, yeah, it's like she has written so many great pop songs. I mean, and she's a very, very good writer, and so
and I want to say she's got at least a dozen Oscar nominations now, maybe 15. And she's never won. I don't think she's going to win here either. It's probably going to go to one of the more politically charged songs here, like "Speak Now" for One Night in Miami, or "Fight for You," Judas, or "Hear My Voice" for the Trial of Chicago 7. I
would, of course, One Night in Miami. You put that in the mix, and I'm, count me in. So, I lean towards that. But I could see "Fight for You." I could see these, protest type of songs in the year that we've had, in Reality and and all that.
One Night in Miami won the Critics' Choice for Best Song. That doesn't necessarily mean it's going to win the Oscar.
Right.
But I'd say it's one of the front runners, and then maybe "Fight for You" for Juice and the Black Messiah, because she's getting a lot of recognition right now. She's kind of a hot new product here.
Right.
But this could be where One Night in Miami gets its Oscar, if they want to share the love and give everything one. Like they've been doing that recently, where they'll give one here, one here, one here. So this could be One Night in Miami's win right here.
The next category, I think, is a very interesting one: production design, and the nominees are
The Father, Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, Mank, News of the World, and Tenet. The first time we see Tenet, which I love that it got an Oscar nomination here. It got two, in fact. It is still, even though I had to watch it 3 times to understand it, it's still one of my favorite films of the year. Completely unique film.
Oh yeah.
The production design on this is incredible. So I could certainly see it winning here. My gut's telling me it's Mank for creating, 1904, or late 30s.
That's what I was going to say, Mank.
Yeah, just because they created the late 1930s so well, and this is a kind of an obvious place where they can award Mank. Like I'm kind of with you that they're going to want to award Old Hollywood. I just don't see it happening a lot this night. Like,
right.
I feel like Mank actually might get shut out completely.
I feel like, this Oscars is not about looking back. It's about looking forward. Yeah,
right.
It's about.
Yeah, I think we are going to see a quote unquote woke Oscars. You know, and hopefully, it's done, where things are deserving. I mean, most of these nominations are. So, I just hope it doesn't look like an overcorrection or look how woke we are. It's just, but I think that Mank could have a shot of being shut out. But
I think if you talk with
certainly a place where it could win.
Did you say
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Which one did you say? I thought you were saying besides.
I think that this could be a place where Mank could certainly win. They created the late 30s, recreated that extremely well. They also, they have this play of Citizen Kane. So they have to recreate this Xanadu in a way.
They're like creating. It's like Inception. It's like creation inside of creation inside of creation.
So I could certainly see that. I also think, and I wanted to touch on this, I'm sorry to interrupt you there, but I wanted to touch on the production design of The Father. It kind of goes in with the editing. What I was saying is the production design, there are little things about his flat, of his apartment, that change from scene to scene. And so it makes the audience feel like confused as well. It's like, wait a minute, wasn't that chair over there, or wasn't it this color instead of this color? And so it definitely makes you be like, okay, you're going through this with Anthony Hopkins' character.
Right.
You're seeing these minute details that are different. And that's through the production design. That's why I think that The Father, really could be a contender here as well.
That's very interesting. And it probably won't go as noticed, because I think that the case you made for Mank could almost easily be made for Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, as capturing a certain period of time and recreating it.
I agree with that to an extent. I think what Ma Rainey's has against it is how many sets are there? 2, 3?
True.
It's because it's shot like a play.
And that was one of the things. Because when I watched it, and I did not know it was a play, to my ignorance, I didn't know it was a play. And my wife had pointed out. I was like, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, she had pointed out that it was a play, and I said, that's weird, because that's kind of what I felt like I watched was a play. I didn't feel like I was watching a film. I felt like I was watching a play. Not to say it was bad, but I was just, I had to adjust how I was perceiving it. And you were saying, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, just a side note on that for people that may be unaware, but Denzel Washington basically has this he's bringing 10 of August Wilson's stage plays to the screen. The first one was Fences. And now this Ma Rainey's Black Bottom is the second one. He has a plan to do 8 more.
Wow.
So he wants to bring August Wilson to the world. And so, this is the second installment of that.
And yet was he producer or director?
Yeah.
Producer.
He's producer on this.
Yeah. So no award for producer, huh?
They are not nominated for Best Picture. Producers would typically get Best Picture, but Ma Rainey's was not up for Best Picture.
Yeah.
We'll see that later.
And always my favorite category, sound. The nominees are
Greyhound. There's your Tom Hanks Apple Plus movie
that I wanted to see.
Yeah, and the sound is pretty incredible. They're on U-boats or they're
the soundstage. And
they're on a big sound set. So the nominees for sound are Greyhound, Mank, News of the World, Soul, and Sound of Metal. So 2 Tom Hanks movies going there against each other. Mank's sound was interesting. Like, I feel like there's one true front runner here, and we kind of touched on it earlier.
Right.
Which is Sound of Metal.
Right.
The way that sound design is, they really bring you into his head when he's losing his hearing. You know, the sound you lose the sound too. So, and you have that ringing and so the sound design on it is pretty.
You have the reverb, the echo, the different levels.
Right, and when he's getting tested, it even you hear the way the hearing aid would sound. And so the sound design on that film is pretty unique.
Hands down, that would be my pick. With eyes closed, I would pick that.
Now, if Sound of Metal wasn't there, I would vote for Mank, because they really captured. I don't know if you really cued in on this when watching it, but they really captured the sound of the 30s films. It didn't sound like newer, technology. Right. It sounded a little tinny. It kind of had that old timey,
It didn't have the crispness of Dolby or whatever. I don't know
exactly. Yeah. So I thought that was a cool design to the film. So that could be a spoiler for Sound of Metal, but no.
Interesting nod or something that just occurred to me. A Sound of Metal, we have a drummer who's losing his hearing, and then we have a girl in News of the World who most of the film doesn't speak. I mean, it's not that she can't speak, but she was raised in a different culture, so a different language, and
and part of that was she was traumatized.
Well, yeah. So, but I feel that's too, I don't want to say pedestrian. I don't mean that in a bad way. I don't know if that's the right word I'm looking for, but yeah, I don't really see News of the World as standing out. I see Sound of Metal or Mank. And I don't know. I didn't see Greyhound. That would be...
with all the depth, there's a lot of scenes of putting out depth charges and stuff. So there's all these explosions and stuff. So, and it's in a submarine or some kind of boat.
A little 1917, but not quite. Sound wise, but I guess I don't know. Visual effects is our next category, and the nominees are
Love and Monsters, The Midnight Sky, Mulan, The One and Only Ivan, and Tenet. Tenet. This is where Tenet gets its Oscar. I think.
I think it should. I think it should. I saw Midnight Sky and I wasn't blown away by it. I wanted to see it pretty good, and then I just don't. I think for visual effects.
This is actually one of the categories I'm not very. I haven't seen them all. I've only seen Tenet and Mulan. So you'll have to tell me, is Midnight Sky's visual effects, are they Oscar worthy?
I don't think so. Yeah. I don't think the film was Oscar worthy. And
this is where
I was disappointed by the film. Maybe I had higher expectations. So. When I think
this is where your no blockbusters really hurts a category. There's no Avengers films. There's no, you don't have any of those big blockbusters. Love and Monsters came out of nowhere. I think, I don't even know if I had heard of it before seeing the nominations.
Is this Love and Monsters on Netflix?
No, I looked it up. You got to rent it. Mm-hmm. No. Midnight Sky's on Netflix. Mulan and One and Only Ivan are both on Disney Plus.
Yeah, Mulan's the only other one, but honestly, visual effects, there's no way I can't say Tenet on this. Yeah, this seems like a lot
because a lot of that they had to superimpose. A lot of the shots,
and
I mean, it's crazy.
The time shifting, all that's incredible, and then recreating the opposite effect, and reversing it and all that. Yeah, okay. So Tenet for that one. For visual effects. The next category, adapted screenplay, and the nominees are.
Yeah, so now we're down to our final four here. We've got adapted the two screenplay awards, and directing, and then best picture. So hang with us. We're here at the end here.
Yep.
We got adapted screenplay. It's Borat's subsequent movie film, The Father, Nomadland, One Night in Miami, and The White Tiger. So The White Tiger is kind of an outlier here, kind of a surprise nomination here. It's one that I haven't seen yet. It is on Netflix. It's an Indian film, I believe. Priyanka Chopra Jonas is in it. Did she take Jonas' name? I don't know. But it looks actually pretty entertaining. I'm looking forward to checking that out this week before the Oscars. But I think here we are looking at a win for either, I don't know. I'm thinking, it's either The Father or Nomadland, I think here. What do you think? I mean, I would personally give it to One Night in Miami. I love that script. But I feel like they're going to go a different direction.
I have this question. It's kind of like, it's almost like the sound design versus the, now that's one category, sound, when we get to adapted screenplay versus original screenplay.
What's the difference?
Well, tell us the difference first, and then I'll tell you what I kind of think of.
Yeah, I mean, essentially adapted is just, you adapt it from other material. It's based on a book or based on characters that somebody created, or in this case with Borat, like being nominated for adapted, it's like, what's it adapted from? Well, it's adapted because it's a sequel. That's why it goes under adapted, because it's a sequel to, characters that were already created. So it goes into their adapted. Most of that is ad lib and improv. So I'm kind of like, not really crazy about a screenplay nomination here. I know that there's the bare bones that, they wrote to go on. But again, like a lot of that's improv, so I'm not really crazy about a screenplay nomination here. But yeah, I would vote for One Night in Miami.
That's exactly what I was going to say. It was One Night in Miami but I almost feel like, I don't know what that was. Was that something else before? What was it adapted from? Because that's my ignorance. I don't know. But
I believe it was a play as well.
Was it? Okay. Yeah. Well, it was a play that didn't feel like a play.
Yeah, they tried to. Regina King did a good job with that.
She did a fantastic job.
She tried to bring it out of the hotel room, and
because the point I kind of want to make and what I was struggling with is, to me, it almost seems like, I know it's adapted, but I feel like it's the most original adapted. If you could combine it somehow, I feel like One Night in Miami is an original concept. It's which I think.
No, it's a really cool. We've talked about before when you said like it's a really cool what if scenario.
I love what ifs.
I mean, yes, they all were there that night, so this could have happened.
Right.
They were all friendly. They were all friends. So, for all we know, they did actually celebrate together. Right. All the dialogue in this screenplay is, of course, fictional and made up. We don't know what was said between them, but I think it was a really great representation of Malcolm X, Jim Brown, Sam Cooke, and Muhammad Ali. And I thought they all four were really well represented in their words and their ideals and where all four of those men came from and their point of view, their perspective of the world. So with the unrest we had in 2020 and situations that are going on, it's a very timely film. It speaks to the here and now. It's voices from the past that we should be having. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But yeah, One Night in Miami, I would love to see that win adapted, and I wish it was under original. I would give it to both. I would just give it 2 Oscars right there and be one and done. But but then I look at the next category, which is original screenplay. The nominees are
Judas and the Black Messiah, Minari, Promising Young Woman, Sound of Metal, and The Trial of the Chicago 7.
I already know your answer without even asking. And you probably know mine without even asking. So, you first.
Yeah, this one for me, and I think it's actually the front runner. This one for me is Promising Young Woman. No script is as original and unique as this one. Twists and turns abound. You won't see a couple things coming. And it really delves into the problem of toxic masculinity, and it doesn't put blame on one gender or the other. It says we're all at fault, that there's a systemic problem that we all need to pay attention to. So it's so smart and funny. That's the thing. It's like, it's not only entertaining and funny and dark, but it also has this great message too.
It's a little tragic too, isn't it?
Yeah.
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 So it's a little bit of everything.
It is tragic. It's about, it's essentially a rape revenge story. So yeah, there's tragedy in it. And, but then there's this wry sense of humor, and, Emerald Fennell, the writer director, she did an amazing job casting the actors, like all the supporting actors, all the men in this film, most of the men are played by young, likable comedians. And then they kind of like, and then we see the other side of them. So you don't expect these likable, funny people to be skeevy, and that's kind of a point being made in the film. So like, my vote is obviously, behind that for Promising Young Woman for original screenplay. I do think it's the front runner. If it does not win, it'll go to Aaron Sorkin for Trial of Chicago 7, I think. Aaron Sorkin's wins so many writing awards that I hope that people are just like, okay, Aaron, you had enough. Let's vote for Emerald Fennell here. I would also love to see a win for Minari. It's a beautiful script. But I do think your vote would be to Sound of Metal. Am I right there?
I think it's the most unique concept of any of them. I'm not putting myself out there like this, but I actually had a similar kind of idea. Not to say that, they took my idea. They didn't. Nobody.
I think you are. You're saying they stole it from you? And
not at all. No. But I did have an idea of that, but it was with the sound mixer losing his hearing. But, it was something back in film school. But but no, in all seriousness, Sound of Metal, I just think I saw it and I'm like, Sound of Metal. I'm like, okay, this must be about heavy metal, or hair metal, or that's what I was thinking going in, and then I was like, oh, and then I started watching it and I was enthralled by it, and it's one of the best films of the year. And for me, I thought it was probably the most original. Minari would be very, very close second for me in that. And that's my thoughts on original screenplay. So
cool. We'll see.
We shall see.
Go Promising Young Woman.
And then Judas and the Black Messiah walks away with the award. Who knows?
I think it's obviously there's a chance there. I do think, again, like, to bring this point up about spreading the love.
Right.
This is where Promising Young Woman is probably guaranteed it's one. Like, I hope that Carey Mulligan wins one, obviously, as I said before. So, but I think those two are the biggest chances for it to take one home, because it's not taking home director or best picture, unfortunately. And I don't think it's taking home editing either. So I do think Carey Mulligan, original screenplay, those are the best two chances for Promising Young Woman, rooting hard for it. So.
All right, down to the two final important categories of the night, directing. And then before we give the nominees for this, it's hard we've kind of said this. I don't know if we've said it on the podcast or not, but it's hard to win Best Picture and not think that you should also win Best Director. But
and usually, back in the day, you're right, they lined up hand in hand. If you won Best Director, you won Best Picture. It just always happened that way. And then kind of in the last 15, 20 years, they kind of started to split that up and kind of shared the love. But I do not see that happening this year. I see the same film winning both.
Okay. And the nominees for directing are?
They are Another Round, Thomas Vinterberg; Mank, David Fincher; Minari, Isaac Lee Chung, I believe is his name; and Nomadland, Chloe Zhao; and Promising Young Woman, Emerald Fennell. History has been made here. Again, we have 2 women nominated for Best Director. Mm-hmm. I thought we were going to get 3, and we should have gotten 3 with Regina King for One Night in Miami.
Talk about a snub. That was probably one of the biggest, if not the biggest snub.
For me, it was easily the biggest snub. She did an amazing job with that. And as we mentioned before, where she took this play and made it not feel like one, and made it relevant. She nailed the landing.
She did a better job of adapting that play to film than Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, in my opinion.
There you go. And you do see that here in directing, or not directing, but you see that. Actually, no, both of them are not up for Best Director or dang, I forgot about that. That's another snub. One Night in Miami's not up for Best Picture either.
Oh God, you're right. Yeah, you are right.
But yeah, that's another snub. But anyway, yes, back to directing. Yeah, Regina King, biggest snub there. But it's kind of a foregone conclusion here that Chloe Zhao is going to take home Best Director, which is cool. Another bit of history. She's would be the second woman to win, other than Catherine Bigelow for The Hurt Locker. So she could make some history here, and I think she will. She's the front runner. I'm not a huge fan of the film. I think it's a little slow, but I do get why people are for it and behind it and voting for it. She basically went on the road, and her and Francis and a small crew basically just became one with that community of nomads and the roving workers and that, and just immerse themselves into that subculture. So I get the love for it, and because the idea is pretty cool for them to do it, and it's really shot kind of documentary style and
right.
So I just think that, and plus the difficulties of doing something like that. You're not on a set. You're not locked down on a set where you have everything kind of in its place. You're constantly moving. It's more like guerrilla filmmaking. So I think that's where the love for this has come from. It's also a film about empathy in a time where we aren't very empathic. So I really do understand the feeling behind this. I'm more of a guy that, yes, I want a meaning behind the film. I want it to have a point, but I also want it to entertain me. Right. And that's where I felt like Nomadland was kind of lacking. I wasn't entertained.
It felt like a project, can we do this? Yes, we can do it, but is it entertaining?
Right. And that's why a film like Promising Young Woman to me is so good, is because it's entertaining.
And it's got the twists and turns in it.
Yeah, and it's meaningful, entertaining and meaningful.
Right.
So, but again, don't want to talk down the accomplishment of the film. I think it does say a lot of great things about America.
What about Mank?
Where we need to go. Huh?
What about Mank in this category for director?
Fincher did great, but don't take this the wrong way out there, people, but a white man ain't winning Best Director this year. It just ain't happening.
Okay.
So I'm sorry, just to be blunt like that, but no, to take on a story like that with black and white, and the Orson Welles, and the whole history of Citizen Kane is a large undertaking and an amazing job. But I just think your front runner is Chloe Zhao. I think if there's an upset, it's probably either Isaac Lee Chung for Minari, or maybe even Emerald Fennell for Promising Young Woman. But Emerald Fennell also wrote Promising Young Woman, so I think giving her screenplay is the award for her. And then Zhao gets Nomadland before she goes and directs The Eternals for Marvel.
Which rumors have that that's going to be fantastic. That Marvel is like, they can't wait to. I know you can't comment, but from what I'm hearing, they can't wait for people to see that film. They're so impressed with how it's turned out, and so Chloe to go straight from that to, a Marvel film really shows a depth from her
it certainly
directing.
shows her range of talent,
Yeah,
for sure.
it definitely shows a range. The one last thing I wanted to mention is another round is in there, and you mentioned that when we were looking at international feature film, and we agree it's not going to win. That would be like probably one of the biggest upsets if it won, but the fact that it's best directing elevates the international feature film portion of it being nominated, like you said, but interesting that it's in there. So that brings us to the creme de la creme, the top of the mountain, the peak of the whole night, the category of Best Picture. And the nominees are, which by the way, there are 3, 6, 7, 8 this year.
Ha ha ha! 8 Best Picture,
not 10,
films.
not 9, 8.
Yeah.
And the nominees are
The nominees are The Father, Judas and the Black Messiah, Mank, Minari, Nomadland, Promising Young Woman, Sound of Metal, Trial of the Chicago 7. Now, we could have 10, and I don't like the fact that we only have 8 or 9 most years when we could have 10. Just throw in 2 more. Come on.
right.
Like, because then you can have Love for One Night in Miami or News of the World. Or,
those would have been 2 great
what's another one? I mean, there are just several that should be there that aren't, and it's, instead of, 8, just give more love.
Yeah.
But out of the nominees, again, I think that it's looking like Nomadland is the front runner here. It's won most of the awards. I believe Trial of Chicago 7 won the cast ensemble at the SAG Awards. So that, maybe.
Through all of this, I was going to ask you several categories back, like when we were looking at original screenplay, and we hadn't talked enough about the Trial of Chicago 7. Could this be where it sneaks in and the one award it gets? I don't know, or maybe it gets none.
You usually don't sneak in for Best Picture.
Yeah, well, that's true.
So I think if Chicago 7 wins anything, and I honestly don't think it will,
right.
I think that it will either be a surprise for Sacha Baron Cohen, but again, I don't think he's going to take Daniel Kaluuya. That one seems like a lock. Or screenplay. But again, I feel like Promising Young Woman is the front runner for that. So I think it's probably going to go without a win, but it is a really great film, certainly in my top 10 this year. Very powerful, great performances from the entire cast. I mean, Sacha Baron Cohen was born for that role as, steal this book. What was it? Gabby Hoffman. Mm-hmm. Just perfect for that role. Mark Rylance as their lawyer is incredible. Like, just great performances all around. I like seeing it here. I think the only one, honestly, I said I'm not big on Nomadland. I think it's better than most films, but in my top 10, I doubt it. Judas and the Black Messiah is just outside my top 10 too. I think while they did a decent job of telling the story of Fred Hampton, I think they kind of muddied the water because there's a scene or two where he talks about, go kill the cops. And it's just kind of like, well, you're trying to make this guy look like a savior, but yet he's kind of promoting violence against the police. And while I get that point, it kind of tainted the film for me a little bit. I was really wanting to see, this guy as flawless, I guess, and maybe nobody is.
Right.
Maybe that's on me and my fault for thinking of it that way. But I would have had One Night in Miami in here instead. I would have had News of the World in here instead. But I like all the other ones. Father's great. Mank's great. Minari, Promising Young Woman, Sound of Metal, all of them are up there for me this year. So I like the list overall.
No Ma Rainey's Black Bottom.
Right. So that's, had 6 nominations or five or six. And let's see, it had 5.
I had 5,
But
yeah.
still, like, it's, for it to not get Best Picture is kind of surprising. But then again, it wouldn't be in my top 10. So I'm not upset about it.
I'm not upset.
So, but yeah, I think we're looking at a Nomadland here, win again. It'll get, Chloe Zhao will get director and picture. And again, I just think it's because it's a tale of empathy, and, just feeling for your fellow man in a time in America where, half America hates the other half. So it's kind of this like, hey, we can put ourselves in other people's shoes.
It's also a political statement. Well, a lot of these films are, or can be seen as that.
We're in that, this year again. Like you said earlier, it's the woke Oscars, the year 2021. So, but, for good or bad, like so, it's
But I mean, the times we're living in. I mean, all of these films are very important. The only one that Sound of Metal kind of sticks out because it almost sticks out, but it's almost the same as The Father because it's about it's not about a social injustice or like Promising Young Woman's horrific kind of injustice. It's about something that's happening to those two characters. Anthony Hopkins.
Well, it is about a fringe community. And that's what I think that, we're trying to go for is telling stories about people whose stories haven't been told much.
And those are the stories that I think we need to hear more of. It's the ones that, it's not the, the Manx over and over, or the story we may know more or less, not to take from that, but, Minari is a very important story. All of these are very important stories, and some are history lessons, and some are, it's a very good mix this year for Best Picture. I would like to see. I'd like to see Minari win it, but if Sound of Metal won it, I'd be very surprised, but I'd be very happy. But I don't think Sound of Metal is going to get it. I think there's a chance that Judas and the Black Messiah gets it. But I don't know. But I could see Nomadland because it's been kind of winning it, and Chloe Zhao doing, getting possible director. And
I also think it's the Academy tends to do this, and where they award the boring, socially significant film Best Picture. It happened with Spotlight. It happened with Moonlight. And I think now it's going to happen with Nomadland, where the slow, boring film that makes a point about America is going to win. So
when you look back through the years of films, and you'll say there was an important film that spoke to that time,
right? Which I think there's merit to that.
Yeah, so. there is. Okay, any last thoughts? Any we talked about snubs. Anything? Is there anything we missed?
I guarantee you, there's something we missed.
There probably was. We tried to be as comprehensive as we could.
It's hard to believe that we would have missed anything because I know we've gone on for longer than we intended to.
We did good for 30 minutes or an hour. It's only maybe an hour and a half.
That's it. So,
that's it.
But when you get us talking about film, it's hard to stop.
It's hard to stop because we love it so much. We miss it.
I just encourage people to go out and find these films. You don't have to watch them all, but most of these are available. Like it's kind of a different year in that regard, where you don't have to go to the theater. Like most of these you can now see on Netflix or Hulu or wherever.
So many films. Like I think Sound of Metal is probably one of those films that wouldn't have in a normal year gotten as much buzz. Maybe, possibly.
Why not have?
I don't know. It may or may not have, but there's some films I know that I've seen at drive-in doing the drive-in experience when it wasn't safe to go to theaters or theaters were still closed. So the drive-in experience was the only other way to see some films. And I saw some films that weren't even nominated here that I thought were pretty good. There was the one with Kevin Costner and Diane Lane, and I really kind of wish Diane Lane would have got a nomination. And I know it's probably not to the same level, but I think it was called Let Him Go, where they were trying to get their grandson back. And I just thought Diane Lane gave a really good performance in that. It would have been nice if she could have got nominated somehow, but but there's a lot of these hidden gems that they got to see the chance, with theaters being shut down and there only being so many films that can make it out.
Right. Like to piggyback on that point, it's like, like last year we had a lot more snubs to talk about. We were both upset about Midsommar and The Farewell, and like there were countless films that we were like, how did this not get nominated?
Right.
But I think that the fact that we had less content, basically the cream definitely rose to the top, and it was evident what the cream was.
And it was also something that we haven't mentioned is there's more diversity in the voting academy. It's not where it probably needs to be yet, but there is a lot more. We're starting to see some of the effects in the awards. It's not, I talked at the beginning of this, like when we mentioned the host, Bob Hope, and, I'm naming some of these, Johnny Carson, people that did the Oscars for years, Billy Crystal, and, and others. And we're seeing a change. We don't have a host. We've kind of changed things up. I think we need to get back to a host, and we need to. I want to see a return to form in a way, but a new way forward.
Here's how we build that bridge. Let Kevin Hart host.
Thank you. I think Kevin Hart deserves a chance. There, I said it. And I've said it before, so it's not a big deal. But yeah, and I would love to see Chris Rock do it again. I thought the year he did it, his humor was biting enough, But I would absolutely love Dave Chappelle to host next year's Oscars. Do it his way, have the pause button ready, or the mute button or whatever. just have your finger on that mute just in case. But I don't know. So tune into the Oscars on ABC and abc.com and everything that's ABC live Sunday, April 25th, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. I almost said Pacific. So, but anyway, so I don't know if you're going to get the blog about this. Probably not. We covered it all.
I don't have enough time this year.
Yeah,
luckily, work is going good. So
knock on whatever. But we're both working. We're both working professionals in the film industry, and it's a great feeling after 2020 to be on productions, and we're both super excited about that. And it's a great feeling. Keep the momentum going, and I'm glad to see Hollywood's making a way through this pandemic, and we're getting back to a new normal, and we're making great content, and I just look forward to an even better Oscars next year, and hopefully it's a calendar year Oscars. Hopefully we can, get back to that. So anyway, that's all we got. Otherwise I'll ramble on. Thank y'all for listening, watching. Check out Geek Homeworld. Check us out on Twitter. We're our YouTube channel. Go there and just subscribe. Click thumbs up on the video. You can check us out on Facebook, Geek Homeworld, and we're all over the place. Also, you can check out, if you like, I do a show called Sven on Film, where I interview film people in the different professions, film professionals in different departments throughout the film industry. So that's on Facebook, YouTube. Check us out. And I'm Ed, your host, and thank you, Scott Schreiber, once again for coming back in and giving me your expert, unique outlook on the Oscars as only you bring to the table. And yeah, I always look forward to our Oscar talks. So this has been a great episode. So I'll shut up and go. But thank y'all, and here's the outro. Bye. Thanks for listening to another episode of the Geek Homeworld with your host, Savage Techman. You can find us on Libsyn, Google+. Follow and interact with us on Twitter. Like us on Facebook. Listen to us on iTunes and leave a review. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Read our thoughts on Blogger. See you again on the Geek Homeworld. Okay, recording has stopped. Yes, we're out. That's a wrap.
I knew we